Hello and welcome to a special edition of All or None According to Jack with your host, Jack Toledano. And as you can see tonight, I have a brand new guest with me. His name is Davey Cretin. Cretin, how do you pronounce that?
Cretin.
Cretin. Oh,
Davey Cretin. It's my stage name from years ago. So
and I
that's
like
what
your
I go
shirt.
by.
You're rocking the Floyd shirt. I have the Zeppelin shirt, which I bought
Nice.
from Steve Keeler's store up in Middletown, New York, some last year, I believe.
I
Yeah.
hope to go there one day because it
Yeah.
looks like a very cool store.
Yes, it is. It's a great place. Check it out. I think it's about what, 2.5 hour ride. Yeah, about a 2.5 hour ride from the New York metro area.
And with traffic, it's probably even longer with the New York traffic.
Can be, yeah. Years ago, my son used to work in a camp up in that area. So yeah, I used to do that trip all the time. But yeah. So anyway, just a little bit of a backstory. So Davey and I once crossed paths years ago. So back before the days of Spotify and all the the media, the what do you call those?
The streaming services, all
Streaming media. Yes, yes. Back in the days when you had to buy CDs and you had to buy records, and there were more record stores among us. So on Old Country Road in Hicksville, Long Island, there many years ago, before Burger King, there was a place that used to compete with McDonald's called Wetson's. Wetson's Burgers, I remember them. I think they closed up in the early 70s. So that building sat vacant for a little while. And then it actually became a record store called Titus Oaks. And
Yep.
Davey Cretin worked there. And I used to go there religiously, and I would see Davey a few times, in the course of my, going there and buying CDs. And I actually once saw you chase a customer out of the store because he didn't buy the CD or whatever. I hope you got him back, but
Sounds like something I would do.
yeah, well, hey, you gotta. I mean, it's your merchandise. But so how you doing, Davey?
Okay, thanks for having me on your show, Jack, by the way.
Oh,
I'm
you are
happy
good.
to be here. So I
Okay.
worked in the record store for many years in Long Island. And I knew Jack. I know a lot of people on the island just selling records, selling CDs, talking music for years and years. But I'm also a Mets fan since I was a little boy,
Yep.
way back in the 1800s, let's say.
Yep. It's a disease. It's an incurable disease. Once you become a Met fan, every year you say, that's it. I'm done with this team.
Yes.
Come August, it's it. I'm done with this team. So last episode, I talked about how they make it once every 6 seasons on average. So in those 5 out of 6 seasons, we're always like, you know what? Fuck it. I've had enough of this team. Bring on football. Next year, I'm going to root for the Yankees, or next year, I'm not going to watch baseball, or I'm going to only go to Long Island Ducks games or Brooklyn Cyclones games. But we keep coming back every spring.
It's hard being a Mets fan. They're the lovable losers. That's
Yep.
how they started 60 years ago, and that's the way it is today.
Yep.
2 pennants in 60 years. It's difficult.
So in any event, so I'm going to start by reading. So I think everybody knows what I talked about last time about the trades, and what I didn't talk about is exactly what happened exactly after the trade deadline. So the first thing was that now I'm reading that Max Scherzer kind of got Billy Epler to kind of go public and say that yes, we are in a rebuild. We're not going to be competitive next year, not till 25, 26. So then Steve Cohen basically sent out this letter, and I'm going to paraphrase. Let us start out by thanking you for your continued support, blah, blah, blah. When we purchased the team, we said that we were doing it for the fans. When our players arrived in Port St. Lucie this spring, we had high expectations for the club. This is not where we wanted to be in 2023. As we approached the trade deadline, we made the decision to expedite that process of of rebuilding. So, it's a long drawn out, of course, he talks about the positives of who he brought on board as far as rookies and we promise you we will work hard to field a competitive team in 2024. For the rest of 2023, we look forward to watching and continuing the development of Cody Senga, Brett Beatty of all people who we just sent down,
Yep.
and Mark Vientos, as well as Francisco Alvarez, who was just named NL Rookie of the Month. I love the way he accentuates all the positives, even with all the negatives going on right now. But the big question.
That's his job.
Yeah, yeah. The big question on the table. Do you agree with the fact that we are now in a rebuild?
We are in a rebuild, and they got a lot of good prospects, but who knows if they'll all pan out. I mean, the Mets got close to 10, 12 different rookies, and
right.
Some are supposed to be good. Others might be used to trade for other players, better players, because how many rookies pan out?
Yeah.
How many in the minor leagues make it to the big show and become stars? Not that many.
Fingers
and
crossed
it's
that
one of those years where everything for the Mets went wrong.
Yeah.
I have almost like a top 10 list in my notes, like the old
Right.
David Letterman show. Top 10 things that went wrong this year. Poor defense.
Yeah.
Especially Brett Beatty, who you said they just sent down. He was driving me batty, and they sent Beatty down.
Yeah.
All the hitters basically were slumping. Even Alonso, he was hitting homers, but his average is still, as you said in the last show, in the low 220s or so.
He's at 227 as of yesterday's game.
Well, and he got, 2 homers and 6 RBIs yesterday. And the Mets finally won a game yesterday after losing 6 games.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But, yeah.
Another thing, the starting pitching this year just couldn't get deep into the game. They gave up too many runs. They couldn't hold leads.
I'd say the starting pitching killed us. Max Scherzer, he's up on this podium. Meanwhile, he was part of the problem. I mean, granted, we can talk about his age. He's 38, 39 years old, but the guy accepted a contract at $43 million a year.
And he did not earn that money at all.
So you know what? I'm sorry, Max. I have no sympathy for you, dude.
I agree. I would have rather they kept Verlander.
Yeah, go fail down in Texas, which supposedly he already did. He gave up 3 runs in his first inning of his first start there. Good job.
Yeah, he didn't do well.
Yeah, but you know what? So I'm just going to go through my list. So my question, whether or not we agree with the rebuilding, I agree with it. I think it has to happen. These players forced Steve Cohen's hand. You know what? It's like a gambler who's always chasing it. You lose that big bundle, then you bankroll another to try and get it all back. Well, it's like you could spend years chasing it.
It's a good analogy.
Yeah. He put his foot down now. He decided, let's break it up. Let's hit the reset button, basically. So unfortunately, you know what? For all the season ticket holders, it's going to be a rebuild next year.
That's what I was thinking. Even for this year, the season ticket holders, they're going to see subpar games, subpar baseball, unfortunately.
Honestly, I'll still go to the games. My daughter's boyfriend George, who's the Yankees fan, he's got this knack for getting inexpensive tickets. So we went to a game for my birthday back in late May, early June. He got us really good seats on field level for I don't know, $40, $50 a pop, which is nowadays is really good. But
yes,
my only problem was spending $40 for parking.
That's way too much.
If I have a problem with the beers, I just won't drink. If I have a problem with the food, I'll bring a sandwich before the game. But that parking, there's no getting around that.
But that's at concerts also nowadays.
Yeah. Not that
everyone, they're trying to make money.
Yeah.
that
Well,
they lost during the pandemic.
right. Yep. So moving along, so a few other topics that I have. So Daniel Vogelback, I didn't bring him up the last time, but George and I were watching a game, and he hits into this double play, and so I'm almost 60 years old, but going back maybe 5, 10, 15 years ago, I used to play softball in a Sunday league, and so many of these guys just couldn't run. They were either overweight or they had leg problems. Now, I was always able to run. Uh, Only once have I ever had like a calf injury where I couldn't run, but other than that, I always ran the ball out and I busted it. This guy looks like he's subpar for a Sunday softball league. The way with that weak swing and the way the guy he waddles like a penguin.
And
He
he lost weight this year.
what he
He
do?
lost a lot of weight, and he's still
He
playing
went from
now.
what 290 to 260.
That's 30 pounds.
He shouldn't be in a major league uniform. Uh, so results of the trade since the trade deadline happened, the Mets got swept by the Kansas City Royals.
One of the worst teams in baseball.
They were 32 and 75 at the start of that series, basically a 300 winning percentage. And we lost the first game in extras where we gave away our closer, Dave Roberts, where we probably might have won that game. So then we lost 4-0 and 9-2 to the Royals. Then we got swept in Baltimore. I'm not surprised. I know Butch Jones is happy, but
Huge fan, and they're one of the
yeah,
best teams this year in the majors.
we scored a combined 6 runs. We got beaten by a combined 19 runs by Baltimore. And then this kind of harkens back to 1980 for me when the Mets, I don't know if you remember back in 1980 when they first got bought out by Doubleday. No, Nelson Doubleday, was it? I think.
Yeah, before the Wilpons.
Well, he bought it with the Wilpons, so they were partners. But they had all these marketing catchphrases like the magic is back. And that year they said the magic is back. So then they went on a West Coast swing. They lost every game to the Dodgers, Giants, and Padres, and they went on like I don't know a 10 or 12 game losing streak, and they finally had to break that losing streak by coming home to Shea Stadium and beating the Cubs, which is what they did last night.
Finally.
Finally beat a team. Alonso finally got his bat cranking, 2 homers, another one tonight.
Correct.
What else? Newbies in the lineup. Last night, Danny Mendick, who homered, Rafael Ortega, and John Arrows. Now, Rafael Ortega, I guess they just brought him up along with Abraham Almonte, who's actually in the lineup tonight
Tonight, yes.
and struck out in his first at bat. So,
But it looked like 2 of those pitches were balls to me.
oh,
More bad calls. There were bad calls last night, too, by the umpires.
oh, okay. All right. Well, unfortunately, I wasn't watching, so my wife was watching her program, which yeah, I don't like her program, so instead I did prep for this. But all right, so let's get to your list, Davey. What do you want to talk about?
Oh, just some more things, some problems this year. The bullpen can't hold a lead. When they have a lead, they give it up because these are no-name guys who just don't pitch too well, unfortunately. And a lot of times the Mets have men on and they just can't get that big hit to bring them in, to bring them around the bases to score runs. A lot of the hitters are swinging at the first pitch, unlike Nimmo, who usually waits and takes pitches to see what's going on. And a lot of strikeouts this year by the Mets. They're hitting into a lot of double plays, and they just leave too many men on base.
Yeah.
Those are some of the basic issues. And when that all comes together with poor hitting, poor defense, not so great starting pitching. It just, the whole season just went down the toilet
Yeah.
very fast after a nice start the first few weeks. But since then, it's been downhill.
Yeah.
But I'm happy that Cohen and the Mets front office, they're doing something about it. The
Yeah.
Yankees didn't do anything at the trade deadline, and they're in last place.
Yeah.
But they're in a super tough division compared to
Yeah.
the Mets.
Oh, yeah.
So at least Cohen is doing something. But for the fans now, in the short term, it doesn't bring us any hope because
Yeah.
this year is gone. Next year, probably, most likely not going to be great. So now we have to wait till 25, 26.
Yeah.
And it seems like we're in the same rut, like you explained last week, your last video, every 6 years.
Yeah. So what do you have on your list? You had this nice big legal pad that you wanted to
Oh, there was an article yesterday or today, about one of the rookies they got in the minors now, the outfielder Ryan Clifford. They said he's a very good hitter, and they call him a thinking man's hitter, which reminds me of what they called Queensryche, Fates Warning, thinking man's medal, for what they called thinking man's medal, and they're calling him a thinking man's power hitter.
Oh,
and they
wow.
think that Ryan Clifford, once he comes up to the majors, he's going to do very well at Citi Field and hit a lot of home runs. But that has yet to be seen. We may have to wait 2 or 3 years to see that because he's only 20 years old.
And what's his name again? I'm sorry.
Ryan Clifford.
And the Mets just got him?
Yes. And he's an outfielder, but they say he's very slow. He's powerful, but going back to what you were saying a few minutes ago, he's a slow runner. So they're deciding whether to keep him in the corner outfield or move him to first base. If he's that slow, just make him a designated hitter, maybe.
Yeah, unfortunately. Sometimes you have to rest other people too. So yeah. So
Well, he could rotate first base, corner outfield, DH. But we'll have to wait a few years to see. And the other good prospect they got is, of course, Ronald Acuna's brother, Luis Angel Acuna.
Yes.
Of course, Ronald is a thorn in the Mets side for years on the Braves, one of our least favorite teams. I'm sure you think that too.
Oh, yeah.
Big Mets fans, the Braves are the arch nemesis.
By the way, the Cubs have tied it up. It's 2-2 bottom fifth.
Oh, darn.
Yeah.
You're right.
Well, we just don't have the pitching. These guys didn't, I would say, and Steve Cohen, he seems to be confident that we might be able to get a couple free agent pitchers in the offseason because some pitchers are becoming free agents. Well, fingers crossed. Because
the majors, the other teams, they're going to make Cohen pay through the nose because they know he's the wealthiest. They're jealous of him. So they'll add the New York tax, is the phrase I've been hearing. The New York tax on. And instead of $5 million, okay, this guy is $10 million if you want him for the team.
Right. Wow. So
make him pay.
What else do you have on your list?
Some of the other things are that the Mets need youth and speed.
Yeah.
And maybe even a new manager. Maybe Buck is showing his age now.
I don't know. That's a tough one. I've always been a Buck.
Maybe.
I've always been a Buck fan, so I can't say that I want him gone. Unfortunately, see, the problem with Buck Showalter, he's more of a strategist type manager where you have to have the talent. I don't know if he's a guy that really nurtures new talent. So, yeah.
What about playing some small ball? Some stolen, maybe a little more stolen bases.
Well, the problem is you got to get on base first, and
that's true.
You got Nimmo, and so back when Jose Reyes was on the Mets, and the Mets were good. So this is like back in 2006. The guy was getting on base all the time. He was batting 320, 330. He was getting on base. So then he was stealing bases. So you can, and before teams knew it, they racked up 2, 3 runs in the first inning. And this is kind of what the Mets need to get back to. They need good table setters. Now,
Well, tonight was only the second time this year, the last two games, they scored runs in the first inning, last night and tonight.
yeah, right. And it was Jeff McNeil who got on base. It wasn't even Nimmo. Isn't Nimmo struggling?
Well, McNeil's not having a great year. He was hitting
No.
over 300 last year, and he's having a very poor year.
Yeah. Well, when you consider both Nimmo and McNeil, so Nimmo is 253, McNeil's 255. So Nimmo, for him to be good, he needs to be up at like 280, 290. And McNeil, we know he can be 320. So yeah. And actually Lindor just climbed to 245. But
well, he's improved recently. I saw a stat earlier that the last bunch of games, the second half of, not the second half of the year, but I guess second quarter, third quarter, he's doing better than he was at the beginning.
Right.
Lindor, but now that he's doing better, some of the others aren't doing as well. So
yeah,
too many slumping hitters this year. And if you can't get on base, you can't hit and run. What about bunting? Don't these guys know how to bunt?
Yeah, we covered that a few years ago when who was their last manager? Callaway. When they asked him, "Oh, why did you have Dom Smith bunt?" "Oh, they don't practice that in the minors." I'm like, what?
They should.
Yes, they should.
Callaway was a big stiff.
Oh yeah, but when you have 4 guys in your lineup, your top 4 guys in the lineup, 253, 255, 247, 227, and then Vogelback at 223, you're not going to score a lot of runs. I'm sorry. They could say, apologists of baseball today can say all they want about how, the batting average is an antiquated stat. That's a bunch of fucking bullshit. I'm sorry.
I'm not a big analytics guy, so I agree with you. Batting average is important.
Yeah. You can't get, and this is going by the assumption that you're only going to get a hit 3 out of 10 times, and that's considered good. And if you can't do that, you got problems.
There are no George Bretts anymore. No one's batting 400.
Yeah. Well, I'd be happy with a couple of people in the high 200s right now.
Yeah, 270s, 280s, exactly.
Our leader is McNeil in the lineup tonight at 255. It's pathetic.
And that's, what's that, 70, 80 points off from last year.
Yeah, easily. I think he won the crown with the 320 or 325 batting average, which, a far cry from the days that a Kirby Puckett would win it with a 360 batting average. Yeah. I think the game has escaped us, Davey.
And he gets very frustrated. McNeil gets frustrated on the field. You could see it. Well, you could see his anger, the way he throws the bat down and curses.
You got to channel that anger. I know all too well. I mean, I just started playing golf about 3-4 years ago, and you know what? Getting angry on the course is only going to make it worse. So you go back to basics. For me, it's go back to the to the range and just work on my swing. Maybe pay for a lesson every once in a while. And the last time I did it reaped dividends. I'm hitting the ball good now. So
that's good. What do you think about the hitting coach? Maybe.
That's
hitting coaches.
That's another sore topic for me. These hitting coaches. What do these guys do?
Not much for the Mets this season.
Or in baseball. I mean, the batting average has tanked. For Jeff McNeil to win it with a 320 average last year, that tells you something. That it's just, these guys are being taught launch angles. They're not taught to make contact. They're not taught to, my son, when he was on travel ball, they would hit line drives. Just swing through the ball, hit line drives. Once in a while they're going to make nice catches, but for the majority of the time they're going to fall in. and can't catch everything. That's what they need to do. They need to stop at the launch angle crap.
Out of all the players that the Mets got rid of right before, as I call it, the Monday Mets massacre,
Yeah,
or the Tuesday terror, whatever you'd like to call it. Oh boy.
yeah,
Hang on a sec. Sorry.
no problem. This episode is brought to you by Keyspin.
I knew I should have turned that on.
This episode brought to you by Keyspan for all your house gas needs.
Sorry about that.
What is that? Is that a giveaway?
I don't know. My father got this, and I just think
yeah,
it's a very nice
yeah, it
Mets
is.
towel.
It is. It's very cool. But we just did our commercial break with Keyspan. Yeah.
Yep. It does say Keyspan. You're right. Sorry about that. I still have a landline. I should have taken it off the hook. My bad. I apologize.
Oh no, that's all right. I once had it happen in a video with Pete Pardo. So somebody called when he was, when we were talking about Primal Fear, German metal at its best.
Right. Power metal.
Yep.
You're the priest of power metal. At any rate, I was going to ask you, getting back to the Mets,
Sure.
at all the players they got rid of at the trade deadline and right before it, is there anyone that you would have kept or that you liked?
That's really hard to say. I mean, so Mark Hanna, for example, he always played hard. He wasn't a great player. I think he played hard. I'm okay that they got rid of him. Tommy Pham was just beginning to catch on.
I thought he was having a good season.
Yeah,
but he was only under contract for this year. So,
but also he, you can only trade the guys that have trade value. Who are the Mets going to trade for Daniel Vogelback?
I was just thinking that they probably tried and no one wanted him.
What are they going to do? Trade him for a barrel of pretzels? Not even a bag of balls. Yeah. No, you know what? I'm at peace with it. I mean, when they got rid of Dave Roberts, at the time I was questioning that, but that opened the floodgates. He was actually doing a pretty good job, and that clearly cost us the first game in Kansas City. But other than that, I think they needed to do this rebuild in the worst way. Yeah.
I'm a little upset they got rid of Verlander, or Mr. Upton, as I like to call him, Kate Upton's husband. He was coming around and starting to have a decent year, right. And then he's gone.
But at least he left amicably. He didn't. He wasn't an asshole like Scherzer. I mean,
exactly.
When you're making $40 million, there shouldn't be any excuses. I mean, all I can say is they must have a really good players' union. I think baseball players should be paid based on performance. I've always thought that.
And they gave him all the money, and he didn't come through this year, Scherzer.
Yeah.
And then he opened his mouth when he left to make the Mets bad.
Yeah. So again,
to throw the blame off himself, he tried to throw it on Cohen and the Mets.
Meanwhile, he had that bad outing against the San Diego Padres last year in the first game of that 3-game series that cost us that game, possibly cost us that series.
The Mets did not do well in that series against the Padres at all.
No. If he comes in and pitches lights out, you know what? They probably win that series because, again, what the heck's his name? I already forgot who they. Jacob deGrom pitched well enough that we won that second game. There wouldn't have been a third game, but whatever.
And look at all those great 5 pitchers the Mets had in the 2015 or so with deGrom and Syndergaard and Steven Matz.
Yeah.
And they're all gone. And oh my God, the Dark Knight.
Yeah, Matt Harvey, yeah.
Yeah, Matt Harvey. They're all gone, and none of them are really doing well except for deGrom, and he can't stay healthy.
Yeah, well, I think he's done. And the Rangers shit the bed on that one again. I mean, I still think about back to the days where we were entertaining signing A-Rod, but his price tag was just too much for us, and his demands were just too much.
Well, too much for the Wilpons.
Yeah. So the Rangers, what did they do? They paid him. They opened up their checkbook, and you know what? They ended up basically giving him to the Yankees a few years later, because he sucked. And now the same thing's going to happen with DeGrom. They're going to have to eat that contract. And I blame the Rangers in part for these big contracts.
Well, they're trying to make their team better and competitive.
But you know what? It's going to come to a point where the fans are just not going to be able to afford to go to the games. The common fan.
Because of parking, because of the ticket prices.
Yeah.
Paying for food and drinks.
I mean, for a family of four, it's what, like a $300-400 proposition now. Ridiculous.
And just for two people, it's a couple of $100.
Yeah.
And who could afford that nowadays with groceries and gas and everything else, rent, mortgages.
Yeah. So.
But now we're getting into the weeds here.
Yeah.
We're getting off baseball.
But
I'm just glancing at my list here.
Do you have anything else?
Yes, the general consensus seems to be that the Mets did very well with the acquisitions they got for the minor leagues.
We're not going to know that for another year or two. So
maybe even longer.
Yeah.
And
they're going to tell you how great they are, but yeah.
And those who don't do well, they might become trade bait for other teams for us to get better players up to the majors.
Right. So that's really all I have. On this day, August 8th, talking Mets speak with special guest Davey Cretin. So I appreciate you being on, Davey. Let's check the score one more time. Where are we?
It's still tied. It's 2-2.
Still 2-2. Bottom.
Bottom of the sixth.
Bottom of the sixth. Yeah. Well, hey, at least we broke the streak yesterday.
Correct. Finally, after 6 losses in a row. That was a rough week.
That's the Mets. They'll lose 6 or 7 games, and they'll come on like gangbusters in one game and make everybody forget for one game.
Yeah, 11 runs is a lot of runs.
Yeah.
Especially for them this year.
Yeah. But that's what I forgot to mention in my last episode. So speaking of Pete Alonso, did you see that play where he went to slide for the ball and it hit him in the face?
That I didn't see.
I think who were they playing? I think they were playing the Royals, and they were still in that. It was the first game, and they were still in that game. He went to slide in foul territory, and the ball hit him in the face. So that kind of reminds me of you ever read the Peanuts cartoon, comic strip in the newspaper where they'd have a baseball scene where the ball would come down and it would hit 4 of their heads. Bong, 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 bong. That was Pete Alonso that day.
That's sort of how the season's gone.
Yeah.
Getting smacked in the face with the ball.
Yeah. And,
and no matter what happens, we still love them and we still watch them and go to the games.
Yep. All I can say now is go New York Giants. Let's pray for a good season for our beloved G-men. I hear Saquon Barkley's back in training camp, so that's a good thing.
And I hear a lot of Jets talk on the fan. They're talking about the Jets.
So you
having a good season.
You a Jet fan or a Giant fan?
I just root for both teams. Okay. I think probably more Jets because they used to play at Citi Field when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
I went to a Jets game way back in the day.
I went to one, yeah. But
I remember it was cold and I was complaining to my father. That's what I remember about because I was very young.
See, I was lucky. It was a mid-October game and it was still relatively warm, but they lost that day to the Buffalo Bills. But
upstate.
Yeah.
Buffalo.
I mean, I'm a Giant fan, but I am rooting for the Jets to, get to the playoffs. Praying.
Well, let's hope someone gets to the playoffs.
Yeah. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is the right move, but we'll see.
Everyone's hoping that he's the guy for the Jets this season.
Hopefully. He's got to have the right targets, hopefully. But
Fingers crossed for New York football and baseball, especially our beloved Mets. Maybe they could actually win the game tonight. We'll see.
Yep. Well, all right, Dave. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a real pleasure, and I'll have this video up tomorrow morning, and off we go.
Excellent. Thank you again for having me, Jack. I appreciate
You're
it.
very welcome. We got to do this again sometime. Yeah.
Definitely.
Be in touch.
Okay.
Anyway, this is Jack Toledano speaking for All or Not According to Jack. Have a good night and a pleasant tomorrow. Bye.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.